What up, Dokkanners? Today we are going to be going through all of my recommended hidden potential builds for every single character during the 11th anniversary. Now, you might be thinking, Toon, why are you so slow on dropping this video? Well, I'm not. Each and every one of these characters' builds I have discussed on their specific showcases, minus a few that I didn't showcase. I don't think I did a showcase for this guy or this one. But minus that, everything else I did do specific showcases for. I have discussed them during live streams, even in other videos. Now, obviously, you can't watch every single video. You're not going to be around for all those things. Maybe you didn't check the pinned comment for this showcase. Maybe you weren't in the Discord server to check out this character's build. Whatever the case may be, I just want to wrap up this 11th anniversary as we approach the end by going over all of my builds minus the fluffs. But again, if you want the full explainer, the full breakdown, check out the specific videos because I have now organized the videos to do that. Where before, actually, over the course of the channel's lifespan, I never used to do that. For example, at the beginning, I would do one showcase on one fight. That's it. You guys recommended do multiple fights, show the character in different situations. I added that. You guys requested that I show the hidden potential builds for characters at the beginning of the video. I added that. On top of that, I included timestamps so that you could very easily find where the hidden potential build would be. I also made a final thoughts section in case my hidden potential build initially changed over the course of the video. I, on top of that, even put a pinned comment to even further make the process less painful, and you wouldn't have to watch the video at all. You can just check the pinned comment. I've even added an entire section based on recommendations. All of these were recommendations by you guys to include a hidden potential build section in the server. So now I do that. I put the character, I put a bunch of keywords because maybe you don't necessarily use those terms, maybe use something else. I can't obviously count for everything, but you know, I'm trying to make things as accessible as possible based on feedback. So now there's a whole section in the server specifically for this, and if there's a character that you don't see a build for after you search, you can request more in the Ask Toon. Dude, I build a whole setup just for you guys. So make sure you guys join the Discord server, and let's jump in. We're gonna start from the Hatchiyak Goku, and I am going to pull up the builds on my phone. Why is my phone not showing? Okay, so let me pull up STR Hatchiyak Goku. All right, so let's go pull this up right there. That is not Hatchiyak Goku. Oh my God. Where the hell is he? Where are you? This one. All right, so we're gonna start with the STR Hatchiyak Goku. Again, full breakdown, check out the showcases. Hatchiyak Goku. Support, slot 1. That's essentially the purpose of this character. You want this unit in the slot 1 because you can get up to 90% damage reduction on the first turn, then 80% on the second turn, then 70% on the third turn. With just damage reduction, some of the harder events, it might not be enough initially, which is why supplementing it with dodge is a good idea. Now, most of my builds, you're probably going to see some pretty insane skill orbs. This is because I have been farming out the Whis event. If you don't farm out the Whis event, it's not a big deal. Your builds just won't be at the same scale as mine. You'll have to use, you know, lesser versions of these skill orbs, but essentially the concept, the premise is still the same. Maximizing dodge gives your slot 1 unit more maneuverability. Sometimes you just don't want to have to tank a super because it might seal you. If you get sealed, then the support aspect of the character gets nullified. So a dodge can help circumvent that issue, which is why maximum dodge, the rest additional. I don't really care about crit for this unit because this unit already has 50%, and the main function is to set up the others. That's why I go max dodge, the rest additional. And I added some nice stat equips because, again, Whis event. That does help considerably. Moving on to the next one, which is the STR Daima Super Saiyan 4 Goku. Now, this one, I think, was a bit of a controversial one for some people. Remember, these are all my opinions based on my personal experiences and what I value more. So if you disagree, feel free to chime in down below, but I stand by what I said, and that is max dodge, the rest additional. The reason for that is essentially, I'm not going to be, you know, discussing every aspect of the character, like I said, but when I talk about the slot 1, this character does have guard. This unit does have 40% damage reduction base. You get an additional 4 with this, and you get an additional 10 by being in slot 1. So 54% damage reduction and guard. That, in this day and age, simply doesn't cut it on certain events. So just to give the unit more survivability, I have thrown more dodge. This unit has great damage potential. This unit already has insane combo power. And at 14 additional, we are giving him a 28% chance for an additional. Whereas with 22 dodge, you only have a 22% chance to dodge. So if the number for the dodge looks higher than the additional, it doesn't necessarily mean that the percentage is higher. It means that you need more just to kind of even it out. And so with this unit having 22 dodge, there's more of a chance that in the slot 1, when you are trying to utilize this portion of the unit's abilities outside of the active skill, you can maybe more successfully do it on some of the more dangerous events. That's why. And then I gave a bunch of attack equips because this guy can do world-breaking damage. Look at that, 9,100. I hate the Whis event, but I can't deny these stupid skill orbs are really good. But if you just want to use the anniversary equips, by all means, go for it. This is my build, max dodge, the rest additional. All right, moving on to the next one. We have TEQ Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta Daima. So let me pull up that right now. Okay. We're doing this kind of in one take. All right, so this one might be another controversial pick, but I am going for max critical and the rest dodge, with some additional just coming from the skill orbs. Now, the reason for this, even more so now than before, is that this unit's main function is to be a slot 2, slot 3 support for everyone, but more specifically Daima. This unit has incredible combo power as it is, but unfortunately the damage output just doesn't measure up without critical. And unfortunately, this part of the passive, where all allies get critical on the next attacking turn, we learned recently that the wording can be a bit misleading, and I think I'm blocking some of it, but you guys already know about the issue. Basically, it's not going to be happening every turn, it's going to be happening every other turn, which is annoying. So because of that, the damage output consistency is going to be a little bit lacking. And since this unit has more than enough in terms of additionals, you are going to be launching more than enough supers. You want to be increasing the damage output to make this character a much more lethal slot 2, slot 3 / support, while also giving the unit a way out. Even with a bunch of attacks under your belt, with your damage reduction, with your guard, which is only for 4 turns, by the way, you are going to need a little bit of an out. Actually, wait, you have 60% damage reduction. Yeah. You're going to need a little bit of an out on certain fights. And so that's why throwing some dodge in there is going to give the unit a little bit more survivability. You could go more and you can prioritize the critical less, but I just feel like the damage, if I'm not seeing with those EX attacks, if I'm not seeing some critical numbers, it just kind of bums me out. So that's why I'm going for max crit, the rest dodge, and there's some additional here only because of this. He does have an anniversary equip, just like the Super Saiyan 4 Daima, so if you just want to use those, by all means. But now you understand why I am doing it this way. And yeah, I love this. I have this issue, okay? I'm working on it, but I don't know if I really want to change it. I love having the numbers sort of be nice round numbers, not necessarily even. Sometimes it's not possible, but like here, a 25 critical, that's cool. It's like a 50%. 15 dodge kind of bothers me, but also it's like, it looks kind of nice. This one drives me insane, so I try not to think about that. But yeah, I do have a weird thing about that. Like I'm obsessed with 20 dodge. You know how some people are like the 3 dodge worshippers? Yeah, I'm a 20 dodge worshiper. Speaking of, let's take a look at the TEQ Majin Duu, the chunky boy. So let me pull that up right here. Majin Duu. I went for a combination of additionals and dodge, but more so dodge. This unit is mainly meant for that one big... Oh wait, why am I showing the passive through the unit? Let me look at it right here. This unit's like main unique trait is that one-time insane damage output, right? When you've got the trio on screen. So I kind of built the character around that in terms of the damage side. But then in general, if you're trying to keep this guy around, I just think throwing more dodge makes him more reliable. Slot 1 units on the Daima team specifically are a little harder to organize. And depending on who you are, maybe you have Goma, maybe you have, you know, all the pieces to be slot 1, slot 2s like Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta Mini. Depending on who you are, in general, throwing more dodge on this unit just gives you more consistency. Also, after 6 turns, this guy loses 25% chance to dodge. I just think dodge is the safer setup for this guy. And then because I'm using such powerful equips, I'm able to sort of evenly distribute. So 32% chance for an additional and 20% chance to dodge. You do have the ability to survive KO attacks, which is great. But, you know, it's like the Kai Goku, right? When he survives a KO attack, he's got 1 health left. He then immediately gets an 80% chance to dodge on a dime. This guy doesn't have that sort of thing, so I feel like, you know, just to give that unit a little bit more security, extra dodge. Moving on to... Oh my god, what did I just do? Did I press the wrong button? No, we're still here. Okay. Next is AGL free-to-play Goku. Now, I have not done a showcase for this character, but I have used the character myself a couple of times here and there. And I will admit, initially, I thought that I was going to build this guy with more critical in mind. In fact, you know what? Let me go ahead and go over what this guy does because I didn't do a showcase for it. So this guy, for the super attack, greatly raises attack and defense for 11 turns, causes ultimate damage, raises allies attack and defense by 11% for 3 turns. So this is the EX version. When the first attack is meant to be a crit, 60% chance of the super attack to become an EX. Otherwise, it is just greatly raising attack and defense by 50% for 11 turns, cause supreme damage. So this is a multiplicative super. So you are going to be padding those stats quite a bit, especially if you keep this guy around. you're going to be doing it basically 5 to 6 times before you start to regulate at that, what, you know, once it starts to drop off. So the numbers can get pretty high for this character considering that it's a free-to-play. Then for the passive, chance to dodge, damage reduction 11%, attack and defense 110, launches an additional super, 50% chance to dodge, changes key spheres to rainbow. When attacking, attack and defense plus 110, chance to dodge, damage reduction 11%. You get critical based on how many orbs you pick up. For 11 turns, you get all this extra, more stats, 11% dodge and damage reduction, all allies attack and defense and crit plus 11%. But when it comes to free-to-play units, durability is one of the big questions when taking them into endgame level content. If that is something that you are trying to do with these characters, generally speaking, giving the unit more longevity is more important. Now, my initial argument against going with more dodge was that because this unit's window of opportunity is 11 turns, that feels like it's more than enough time before this character's drop-off actually starts to hurt. So that's kind of where the personal preference comes into play. My original idea was a high investment into critical and additional with no regard for dodge, because you have 50% right here, 11% more, so 61%, another 11, that's 72%, and then another one, which is 83%. This guy has 83% chance to dodge on his own for the first 11 turns. That's pretty good. And the critical is taken care of. If you pick up 3 key spheres, you've got a 33% chance to crit. If you pick up 5 key spheres, you've got essentially a 25 in your critical, right? So do you care more about consistent damage, or do you care more about this free-to-play unit not getting you killed? And over time, as I tried to use the character and I thought about it, I thought to myself, yeah, damage is cool, but I've got other characters that can do the damage. I would rather this guy just not get me killed. So I instead gave more dodge investment so that the 83%, once that becomes 72%, as we all know, 70% ain't gonna cut it because bad luck, right? I would rather just put a little bit more dodge in there. And I also gave some stats with these equips just to make the multiplicative stat buff a little bit more prolific. But that's why I am going for max dodge, the rest additional, or you can just do kind of an even split between both. I personally don't care about crit. I think I have enough. But like I said, I did have that before. So it's based on your personal preference. This is mine. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you even use the character? I gotta say, I hate the 60% thing. You don't see, oh, my phone is cutting it off. I hate this. I never got this. I would never get it. I mean, you guys have seen my Festival of Battles runs, right? Like, I never get this. It's so annoying. I never get this on a 70% chance, so let alone 60. It's stupid. All right, moving on to the Trunks EZA or Super EZA. I gotta speed this up because I'm rambling. Let me let's go faster. I think I will timestamp this. Pretty easy. Max dodge. This guy's got crit. This guy's got additional. This guy's got great support. This guy's probably going to be a slot 3 character. So because you're going to have other units on the Vegeta's family, maybe he'll be a slot 2. But in general, you want to give this unit extra cushioning while it can support and provide some consistent defense boosting on its supers. This unit can multiplicatively raise its defense by over 6 turns. So while you're doing that with your combos and your crits, you should try to throw in some extra dodge just to give the damage reduction less pressure. Because damage reduction is 60% on the first turn with guard, as long as you have an extreme class enemy or everybody is a super class character. But then after the first turn, you're only at 20% damage reduction. So you're really relying on your multiplicative defense buff. And if this guy's going to be floated off, the defense raising is going to take longer to regulate, which means there's a higher chance of catastrophe. Max dodge for the Trunks Super EZA. Gohan, 8th anniversary part 2 LR EZA. I gave this guy maximum dodge, and then I put the rest into additional with a little bit of crit in there. My philosophy behind this is simple. The unit has to gain more stats by receiving or dodging an attack. The damage reduction only kicks in after an enemy is hit by this unit's ultra super attack. So in those slot 1 type situations where maybe you have to put this unit in slot 1, having the ability to dodge the attacks to become dodgier is good, meaning your angle of entry needs to be higher. So the more dodge you have initially, the more consistently you can probably get into this part of the passive with little to no, well, with less risk of getting punished. So with a 25 dodge, that's a 1 out of 4 chance of not getting hit the first time. If that happens, you get 20% dodge. If it happens a second time, that's 40% now. And then sooner or later, you will be relying on this more so. But once you max this out at 58%, then if the 58% fails, you have a 25 backup, which is pretty decent. Whenever the passive is around 50%, that optimizes the chance of your hit potential even being a factor. So I just think because this guy can stack attack and defense, not as well as the Kai Fighter's Goku, in my opinion, this guy can still stack pretty well. I just think to give the unit more security, more consistency, since you want to have this guy on rotations with maybe a Piccolo, this unit might have to be in the slot 1. Giving more dodge will do that. I threw in some stats, obviously, because Whis grinder, but, you know, most of you are probably not at that level. So, yeah, go for max dodge and then put the rest into additional. He gets crit as long as your health is above 58%. You never really want to be below 58% anyway, so as long as you're above it, you will get crit. Most Gohans require being above 58% health, so I don't think that you are going to be down there very often. So 58% crit is basically what you're going to have anyway, so crit doesn't matter in your hit potential. Moving on to the next one, and that would be the AGL Kai Fighters Goku. So let me switch over to AGL Kai Fighters. Dodge and additional. That's it. You get crit. 59% crit for every attack avoided or received. You also have a little bit more crit for the first 7 turns. And then also with the active skill, you get guaranteed crit for the turn. For me, that's enough. This guy's main function is to make you immortal, and the unit can do that in the slot 3. You survive a KO attack, and then on a dime, you get 80% chance to dodge. So if you have 1 health left, you have an 80% chance to dodge. Now, most people are probably going to say, Toon, 80% is more than enough. Well, 20% of the time, you're a liar. That's not the case. So in those situations, let's just hone in on that one trick, the survival trick, the immortality trick. You have 3 attacks heading your way in slot 3. The first one is the super attack. You survive it, you have 1 health. At that 1 health, you now have to dodge 2 attacks. Would you rather have an 80% chance to dodge those 2 attacks or an 84% chance to dodge those 2 attacks? I would rather go with 84, because if you get hit one more time, if they even sneeze on you, you're dead. So maximizing dodge is a good idea, just because you can give yourself more survivability in those situations. Obviously, additional on top of that, just to increase the consistency of the stacking, and then some stat buffs to increase defense. He only stacks defense permanently. The attack stacking, I gotta say, originally this build had no attack buffs in it. When I did my Festival of Battles run, he had no attack equips. He was doing some pretty respectable damage against, I believe it was Gogeta. He did, I forgot what the amount was, but it was actually commendable. He was doing a good amount of damage with the active and then some. So damage, I mean, the attack numbers doesn't really matter as much. I think defense is more important. So dodge and additional, no critical required. I will say the 21 drives me insane. I hate seeing 21 and 20, but I'm trying to let that go because with this new like reality with these Whis equips, that's happening more often. So it's a Toon problem. Moving on. Good Lord, we're 20 minutes? Not even halfway through. Damn it. All right, I gotta pick this up, man. TEQ Majin Kuu. I didn't do a showcase for this guy. You're primarily going to be using him for that Goma event. I gotta say, I hated that Goma event. I originally had him at max dodge, which I think is ultimately the better use of the character because it's a free to play. It has some issues. You want to be keeping that damage reduction as high as possible before receiving an attack. But for the sole purpose of clearing that Goma event, focusing more so on additional so that you can capitalize on that one turn where everything falls into place, I think is the best thing that you can do for the character in terms of that mission. Outside of that, though, I would say max dodge, then the rest additional. Either way, I don't really care about critical. So if you don't care about the Goma event, then I would say go for dodge. If you do care about the Goma event, then go for additional, or just put an even split into both. I went more for additional for the sake of that, and I never changed it. So that's why additional dodge is what I would recommend for Majin Kuu. Oh boy, yeah. Timestamps it is. Timestamps it is. All right, next up, we got Tamagami 3. Check out the video for this one because these units were awesome. This was really fun to showcase. I was very surprised at how good these guys were together. Separately, it's an issue. But max dodge, the rest additional. Critical happens already through the oh wait, no, you don't have critical. Yeah, you don't have critical on this, but you actually do get a little bit of it from was it this one? Oh, I'm thinking of something else. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, so the issue here, now I remember. The issue was that yeah, critical would be nice to have, but the problem is after 4 turns, all of the Tamagamis sort of drop off a little bit. This guy loses 20% chance to dodge. This guy loses some combo power. The stacking isn't as amazing as you might hope. Even if you're getting consistent EX after EX after EX, it's still not enough to offset the lack of defensive maneuvering. You only have dodge. You don't have damage reduction. You don't have guard. You're going to get guard from someone like Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta. You're going to get damage reduction from Super Saiyan 4 Daima Goku, but that's not going to be happening all the time. And it's also not necessarily going to be enough to save you. So giving more dodge, even with the stacking, is a good idea. On top of that, throwing more additional just gives you more consistent additionals, which means the more additional possibilities of the EX activating. It sucks that you can't go critical, but that's why I think critical is less important. I want to survive. I don't want to die. So that's why I'm going with additionals or dodge and then additional. I know some people will disagree with that, but check out my video. If you check out the showcase, you will understand more about why I think this. Next up, we got Tamagami number 1. Oh, Tamagami number 3. Damn it. All right, Tamagami number 3. Same sort of mindset, only here I focus more so on additional, mainly because this guy's not going to be on the rotation as regularly. He is the odd man out of the 3. He is the one that floats. And when he does, you want to kind of send a parting gift, right? He's got critical in his passive, so you don't really need critical. You want to have some dodge, but because he's in slot 3, the necessity of the dodge is going to be a little bit lower. The only thing that you have to worry about would be AoEs or maybe being locked in slot 1 or something like that. So putting some dodge is good. I just prioritize the additionals a bit more. Also, I'm not giving the crazy Whis, like high caliber equips to these units just because they're free to play. I'm not going to be using them as much, but yeah, I went for additionals and then I went for dodge after that. Next up, we go to Tamagami number 1. He's your slot 1 GOAT, and he is really good. Out of the 3, he is the best of the free-to-play Tamagamis. He's your slot 1. He's your defender. Focus on that more so than anything else. Again, these guys do drop off after a certain amount of turns, but you want to make them as consistent as possible in the slot 1 or whatever role that they're supposed to do. So I've given him maximum dodge to further bolster his defensive prowess in the slot 1. That's it. Moving on to the Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta for his Super EZA. Good lord, we're taking so long. I'm sorry. Vegeta right there. Additionals and dodge, no crit, because 50% chance to crit when everybody's Realm of Gods. I'm only going to be using him for the most part when there's another Realm of Gods on the same turn. Even if it's not a Realm of Gods team, it's probably going to be on a team with STR Blue Goku on that squad. Everyone should have STR Blue Goku at this point. It is one of the best units in the game. So assuming you do, this is pretty much taken care of, which means 50% chance to crit. After that, it's just about increasing the unit's overall capabilities. More damage, more attacks, and dodging. Only a 50% chance to dodge. This is the perfect recipe for utilizing the hit potential. If the 50% passive fails, then the calculation happens next for the hit potential. With a 20%, you are giving yourself, collectively, this unit now has a 60% chance to dodge because of this passive and my 20 hit potential. That is going to be better than a 50% chance in the slot 2 or slot 3. Most of the time, he is going to be in slot 3. But as he is on the way out, he can do a ton of damage with that extra additional and the stat changes that I've given here. So max dodge, the rest additional. You could go, I think you don't have to prioritize the dodge. I think you can put a little bit into each, but I personally went max dodge. Moving on, we got TEQ Pan. All right, TEQ Pan. She is an attack stacker. She is a slot 1. She's got insane damage potential. She can do cataclysmic damage on Festival of Battles, but in general, just on short form content, she is a great slot 1. And she's actually a surprisingly decent floater with a 30% extra dodge on top of her base dodge, which is 80%. So to just give her more consistency in the slot 1, which is her primary position, I am going for max critical and then the rest dodge, but I was able to give good Whis equips to make them both even. She has a 42% critical chance and a 20% dodge. Unfortunately, she doesn't have much in the critical department. There's nothing here except for the active skill, but the active skill only gives you a 59% chance to crit, which kind of a bummer. But in that specific situation, again, we come back to the calculations. If a 60% chance to crit fails, you then have your backup calculation factoring in. So if a 60%, or it's 59%, but we're just going to round it up, right? If you've got a 60% chance to dodge or 60% chance to crit, and you've got a 42% backup, and that is bringing your dodge to around 76%, which is pretty good. That's a great chance to crit on that turn. So I would like to do that. I want to get that damage going. Pan can do it. That's why I went for max crit, the rest dodge. Vice versa also works. Just because you got 80% chance to dodge, I would primarily choose the critical. Moving on. Coming up on the last few here, we are on the part 2 LRs. We got the Int Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. This guy, I don't care about crit. I don't. He's got crit in his Goku form. I myself find the need to transform into the Goku quite a bit. This unit's optimized use happens when you know when to switch between the two. This unit's main purpose in the slot 1 as Vegeta is to defend, stack, and also support stack. That's why dodge will give you extra cushioning when the 80% and guard damage reduction might not be enough. Believe it or not, there are cases where that is actually true. On top of that, it can potentially save you from a seal or a stun, which that could cascade and affect the entire team. And you have some additional just to get some more stacks in there just to make the process faster for this guy to become an even more lethal Super Saiyan 4 Goku. When you switch to the Super Saiyan 4, all the crit is taken care of. So yeah, I stand by this. I don't regret this at all. Short form content, long form content, this is the way to go. Plus, as an added bonus, I found on Festival of Battles, not that that is the deciding factor here, but just as an added bonus, on Festival of Battles, I was launching multiple attacks during the earlier rounds because this guy wasn't launching crits as Vegeta. So that gave me even more stacking. And that first run that I did with the double Super Saiyan 4s, go look at the team comp. I was not expecting to have such destructive firepower at the later stages, but it was because of this guy's stacking and the team stacking that allowed for that. I think I had like 22 or 23 EX supers the entire way. That's a ton of team stacking. Max dodge, the rest additional for Vegeta. Even split still works for me. Next up, we got, is it Ledgic? The GOAT? No, it's Autonomous Ultra Instinct. So let's pull UI Goku up here. Same thing. Dodge and additional. Why dodge and additional though? Well, first of all, critical is not needed because this unit does develop enough crit with enough dodges. Once you dodge 4 times, you have 60% chance to crit as UI. UI's main purpose is to dodge though. When you switch to the Vegeta has a guaranteed dodge when you activate the active skill or when your key is 24. Besides that, you have a base 50% chance to dodge or crit. So for me, that's enough. So I don't need more than that. But what I do want is to give this Vegeta, after the one-time 77% extra damage reduction, I want to give this guy additional slot 1 coverage. He gets 30% damage reduction. He has guard, 30% damage reduction before receiving an attack. After he gets attacked enough, he gets an additional 40%. So he would have 70% damage reduction and guard in the slot 1. But as I said before, even 80% damage reduction and guard in the slot 1 might not be enough in certain situations. Ergo, the dodge. The dodge can protect you from seals or stuns or just otherwise unnecessary damage. So that's why I've given that. Plus, this unit, for the most part, you're probably going to want to use this guy to get you out of some scary spots. Throwing some extra dodge in there can never hurt. You do lose 10% chance to dodge after you've attacked. So if you don't get that EX attack where it's a guaranteed dodge, you're going to have to rely on the remainder of your passive. And if you have an extra little bit of dodge in there, it could help. I gave a bunch of attack buffs because I love Universe 7, and I gave additionals because since we don't need crit, process of elimination. Moving on to Ledgic. Oh, man, what the? Ledgic! The ultimate GT boss support. I love this unit so much that it's stupid. Look at what I've given him. I gave him 30 additional. You don't need crit. You don't need dodge. You don't need additional. You actually don't need anything. If you want, throw on stats. This guy has guaranteed dodge in slot 1 once. This guy has guaranteed crit in slot 3 once. Aside from that, you've got like 60% chance for everything. It's crazy how good he is. All I have done is just made him even more lethal with more additionals. The crit was just an added bonus. Honestly, it could have been dodge. It doesn't matter. You do not need either. Just stats and additionals make this guy just cause maximum carnage. Ledgic, what an opening for Ledgic. I'm so happy for the 3 Ledgic fans out there besides me who get to enjoy this unit on the debut. He's that good. He's very good. I got nothing else to say. Watch the showcase for the Ledgic, okay? Go watch and see the stupid numbers that the Ledgic is able to pull off. Next up, everyone's favorite, the Resurrection F Blues. I stand by this build. Dodge and additional. Why? Well, the first 3 turns, you have a little bit of dodge. You have a little bit of comboing. But after that, you're kind of at the mercy of what's left. You're going to want to transform after the first 3 turns, but if you don't, because you're trying to get a couple of extra stacks in there, you're going to want to have some dodge just to kind of back you up. Then when you transform into the Vegeta doesn't have any dodge. So if your initial theory or your initial reasoning was that, well, as the Resurrection F Goku, I don't need dodge, don't worry about it. Well, what happens when you're Vegeta? When you're Vegeta, you can get 50% damage reduction, but then after that, you got nothing else. You don't have guard, you don't have anything. Offensive horsepower is insane. So the question isn't about the damage potential, the question is about survivability. The more dodge you give, the more consistently you can get out of potential seals, stuns, or just, general punishes. And then of course, more stats and more additionals will just make you that much more consistent. What did I just press? Oh wait, that's why I stand by my build. Max additional, the rest, no wait, max dodge, the rest additional. I just got some nice equips, so I did the symmetrical build. Almost done here. Almost. All right, up next, Spirit Bomb Z, Spirit Bomb GT, easy choices in my opinion. Let me go get these. Spirit Bomb Z, max dodge. You don't need anything else. You don't need critical. Critical's guaranteed down here. You will get that in 5 turns or 5 attacks, super attacks, sorry. And additionals, you've got plenty of it. All you need is some dodge early just to avoid any potential issues early on. Once you get like 2 or 3 attacks under your belt, they're unstoppable. They are unstoppable. And with this build, they are fantastic rear guard units for Festival of Battle runs. Again, that's an afterthought, but it's just an added bonus. Maximum dodge with stat buffs. That's all I care about this unit. You've got additionals, you've got crit, you've got everything. Ridiculously, stupidly good unit. And last but not least, Spirit Bomb GT. I was a little nervous about focusing on maximum crit for this guy, but I don't regret it. This unit has insane stacking potential for the attack. You also need to be getting hit 4 times, starting from the 4th turn from the start of battle in order to trigger the standby. So if you focus on max dodge, it could impede that progress. If you don't care about this sort of thing, then there's always, there's never any shame in adding more dodge. That's always going to be a good thing, because maybe you want to put this guy in slot 1. But I have found over the course of my few videos where I've used them, a great trick is to build up and cultivate that power in the slot 2. And once you've built up a ton of stats and a ton of defense with your multiplicative defense buff, you can then switch them back into slot 1 with their built up 50% damage reduction and their defense stacks. And you can add a 30% crit on top of that, or 30% damage reduction on top of that. So with all that extra defense and an 80% damage reduction, this guy can actually be pretty good in the slot 1. And again, that gives you enough ammunition to build up those hits received to trigger the standby. I stand by this build so much. I was worried on Festival of Battles that all that crit would undercut the unit's progress, but I was so shocked. Keeping this unit on the rotations, the unit actually didn't get hit once until like the final few fights. Every time this unit showed up and attacked, the enemies lost. And I thought that that would hurt the stacking, but the stacks were so prolific. This unit was able to keep up with consistently stacking Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, or the Super Saiyan 4 7th anniversaries, and the LR Super Saiyan 4 Int Vegeta. This unit needs to show off that damage. Also, the revive counter, I like that its attacks are effective against all types, but come on, man. I want that Spirit Bomb revive counter to be flashier. I want to break the damage barrier. I don't need this. I want crit. I'm going for the gold. I'm going max critical. The rest goes into dodge. I just put a little bit of additional because I like seeing round numbers. That's literally the only reason why I did that. I would not have done this if I could have switched up for the dodge. It's weird. That's just my problem. And there you go. That is my full recommended hit potential builds for all characters. Again, I couldn't give the entire reasoning behind each build because we don't have enough time. This video is already over 30 minutes. So hopefully use the timestamps to look around. Hopefully you guys are able to watch the whole thing. Hopefully you guys agree with my builds. Again, there's no 100% guaranteed correct build for these characters. It depends on how you want to play the game. It depends on how you wish to get through the content in your own way. So if you disagree with some of my builds, maybe you don't care about dodge as much, hey, that's your own prerogative. I am just giving my thoughts and opinions because you guys want to know what I think. And if you don't care, well, thank you for watching anyway. It gives me the ad revenue. So I get to drink some water today. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, obviously like down below. Let me know in the comments your thoughts on my hit potential builds. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Which ones do you vehemently disagree? Which ones do you majorly agree with? Are there any hot takes that you have for any specific hit potential builds? Let me know your thoughts overall in the comments down below. Again, if you want to check out any more of these builds, go to my Discord server because I've got a whole section for hit potential builds that I update regularly. So make sure to join. Also, be sure to subscribe for more dope content in the future and click the notification bell so that you'll let YouTube know you're going to see more of my stuff. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned and ours to Dokkan responsibly.